Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We're really excited to be here and talk to you a little bit about our experience of collaboration. This is a wonderful weekend to be part of, and we're so honored to take part in this way. We're here to talk to you about the why. You know, there's a lot of discussion about what, the details of how to make commissions work, and sometimes that can be a little scary and off-putting if it's not something you have experience with. But there are so many beautiful reasons to do this and to invest in the creation of new music. So we're here to talk to you very much under the heading of this whole weekend about relationships, which is why these kinds of collaborations begin. I'm here on behalf of my trio, Haven. Midori and Kim are also here. We're performing a piece of Yvette's tonight that we adore and that we are so excited to share with you. We believe in Haven in commissioning people, not pieces. So when we find a composer that we want to work with, it's signing on for the long term. It's starting small with a piece, finding a way to bring something to life for the first time, and then committing to a long relationship with that piece and that person, and then hopefully having that develop into multiple projects and recordings and tours and things over time. So our Haven composers become extended family, and we get to know each other on a deep, substantive level. And that's the way that we find we can be the best advocates for them. And that's something I'd like to talk about today, too, is the responsibility that we feel as performers to be composer advocates. That's what they need from us. That's what they deserve from us. And I think there are a lot of concrete ways to do that. But I'd love, Ivette, if you would just give them a sense of how we first met and why we started down this path together.
Yes, so I think it has been 5 years. A little bit of, it feels longer, but 5 years, and I wrote a piece for Peace for New Music Ensemble, and you sing with them, you're part of that group. And I went there a summer for the premiere, and I had a rehearsal. And I remember I wrote a cello cadenza that did not fit the piece. And I remember, I think something I have learned with commissions and collaborations and working with fellow musicians is, as a composer, you have to be clear about what you want, but you have to be open to feedback, so that the piece is not finished until you have that feedback, you have that other side. And it doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It means that now you are the part of a larger whole. And like Lindsay said, music doesn't exist without the performers, and the performers don't have anything to do without us. So we have to think about this as a community effort. It's not a genius thing or one person or a Grammy-nominated singer. It's all of us making music together. So we met in 2018, but I had heard you sing when I was a student. And I have said this before, I am listening in this concert, I'm just thinking, I wish I could work with this person one day. And this piece you're gonna hear today is our second collaboration. And I met Kimberly and Midori through Lindsay. And the best part of this work, I think, is that we have allowed for a space to get to know each other, to talk and communicate a lot. And the music is a result of that relationship. And I think it's a living experience. It's something that still is changing and becoming and forming. And it has been, we talk about this piece in 2021. So also that idea of a long time process, not thinking about collaborations as a short, quick result driven thing, but as an experience and as an evolving thing.
So now that Ivette is part of our world and our Haven family, this piece has become a cornerstone of our programming and what we love to share with audiences. But it's just the beginning of a much longer arc that we hope will include multiple pieces over many, many, many years, because then we become even more specific in our ability to speak her language. I think there's a lot of conversation in the new music world about premieres, and premieres are important, but that's just the starting place. And there are many great pieces out there that have gotten one performance and then they sit on the proverbial shelf for the rest of time. And that's not giving the full due and honor to the composer who spent weeks and months and sometimes years of their life pouring their souls into this piece of art. We as performers need to champion those pieces and put them in front of lots of different audiences, because audiences are the people who decide what pieces survive. And what names are known and what legacies are built. You know, it is because performers took that responsibility seriously that we know Mozart's name, you know? And there are those people today, like Ivette, writing music that deserves to be heard and cherished and understood. And understanding comes with time and conversation and dialogue and lots of opportunities to hear the same piece on different days in different rooms with different people listening, because the audiences change that experience. So we're just so grateful to be doing that with Ivette.
One of the things that has mattered a lot to me is to have people that believe in what you will produce. Even if they haven't, it's not ready yet, but they are saying, we're with you, we know you can do this, how can we support you? And I think for a composer, that's really important. That makes the work even better before it totally exists. That community, that companionship, and that trust, and encouraging presence and words. And then the other thing is that after the piece is premiere, the piece still exists. And even, reaching out, sending me programs of all the concerts they're doing, of sending me recordings, sending me just that communication. Many times we write music and then we're paid and deliver, and that's the end of that experience. And I don't think that's the best model. So it goes back to the human side of this, but it's the idea that we value and respect what each of us does, and that continuation that happens with the music is important too. Yeah. So I appreciate that a lot from Haven Trio.
I've learned, I've learned so much from working with a variety of different composers, what a lonely profession it can be. And I think there's a lot of pressure on composers to kind of sign on the dotted line and then go into a dark room and come out with a completed masterpiece. And that's an unreasonable expectation for any human. It shouldn't be that way. And I know in Haven we love being active collaborators in the process, which sometimes just means cheerleading for a while, and reaching out with a random text and saying, we're so glad you're in our lives. Hope you have a great day, well in advance of the deadline. So it's not a pressured, and by the way, passive aggressively, you owe me something. It's not that. It's just, we're with you, and we're cheering you on, and we believe in you, and this is going to be great, and we're all going to make it great together, and that means a lot. And then thinking about those things beyond just commissioning the piece and performing it. That's not enough advocacy in our way of thinking. That's a beginning. That's a starting point. But making sure your concerts are recorded, or you are recording them, so that the composer who might not be there gets to experience that, gets to hear their music out in the air and gets to hear the response from the audience. Or even if recording isn't an option for some reason, texting them after the performance and saying, this was the response. This is what some person in the audience said to me about how much their music meant to them. That is so meaningful, and that's like the food that composers subsist on that gives them the fortitude to continue on a really challenging journey. So we think about that kind of advocacy, performing these pieces multiple times, trying to get performances and recordings funded both for our own behalf and our own aims, but for the composer too. We're a team in this and in getting this music out in the world. So I think thinking about as performers, for any of you in the room who are that, what is our responsibility collectively when it comes to being composer advocates? And how can we do more for them? This is their livelihood. And little things like sending them programs after the performances that they will need for BNMI and ASCAP royalties is really important and something that we can be proactive about. I know there's like a time, I think it's in June, where a lot of composers I know put out calls and say, if anyone did my music in the last year, can you let me know? And the fact that we're putting them in that position to beg for that information is just not acceptable. We have to do better. We can be proactive about this and really help them in that process along the way. It takes 5 minutes to scan a program and send it right after the show while you're thinking about it, and it means the world to them.